Hey
Hey
rookies!
rookies, what's up? What's up?
Welcome back!
This is episode 12, and
Yes.
since there's no race this weekend, we decided to give you guys a little bit of a helper getting
Mm-hmm.
more into the sport.
Yes. I am actually super excited for this episode because I
Hmm.
feel like there are so many people
Yeah,
who are like, yeah, I would love to watch F1, but I just don't know where to begin.
yeah.
It is quite intimidating getting into a new sport, getting into anything
Hmm.
new. So we are here to help. Fear not.
We are going to give you a step by step guide on watching Drive to Survive.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yes.
what this will help you do is not only understand the sport where you can just get some bragging rights over your friends, but you will also have complete context to what is going on today.
Yes. If you want to watch the whole of Drive to Survive, go for it. But it's 7 seasons, 70 episodes, and that can also feel overwhelming. So we
Hmm.
decided we will narrow it down.
Yeah.
So we are giving you just the top 10
Yeah,
episodes.
we're essentially giving them one season out of the seven.
Yeah, that's true.
We've compiled 7 seasons into one. Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, these are our favorite episodes.
Hmm.
They are our favorite for various reasons, various aspects that we think is still so relevant in the
Hmm.
sport so many years down the line, things that are truly, truly iconic to
Yeah.
F1. And yeah, we hope that you watch these 10 episodes and you become an F1 rookie along with us.
Yep.
Disclaimer though, because I don't want F1 purists
Mm.
coming for us, being like, oh, Drive to Survive is just drama, it's just film, it's not real F1. I get it. We get it, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, Drive to Survive has done so much for the sport. It has gotten so many
Many
new
people
fans.
into it. Yeah,
Yeah, and if a few more people start watching F1 because of Drive to Survive, we'll take it.
we'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Needless to say, if you want, do go watch F1 as well. Go
Hmm.
watch the races. But if you just want to relax, watch some Netflix, these are the top 10
Episodes
episodes.
for the Drive to Survive series that you must watch.
Yep.
Let's get into it. Once upon a time, there was season one, episode one. All right. Now we're talking about the very, very beginning of Drive to Survive. This, in my opinion, is genuinely like one of the episodes that you have to start with. It's not only going to set you up to know exactly who's who on this track, but you're also going to understand a lot of the interconnections that these drivers come with, a lot of their shared history, where so many of them have been part of F3 and F2 together, even go karted together, by the way, which we've been seeing a lot of recently. But this entire episode essentially starts with the beginning of the 2018 season. Now, the 2018 season's a bit tricky to honestly tell you that there is one significant aspect of season one, episode one, that kind of irks me, I'll be honest. But at the same time, I think it's worth the warning. We will not see Lewis. We will not see any Ferrari. We will not see any Mercedes. You won't barely see anyone. It's sad, but they didn't give them any rights. And I mean, it's like fair, you don't want your car's designs and things to go out that early. But clearly that changed. But there was one very important thing that this did. Now, not having the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes to show, this opened up the world to seeing the mid-level teams. You saw people like teams like Haas, you saw teams like Red Bull, who, while was not a mid-level team, was also not winning everything. They were in the top, but they were still fighting hard. And it's a good point to actually start seeing where we end up seeing today's Red Bull dominance. I think it's a great point to see that they come from a different beginning rather than, people think that, oh, Max is just winning all the time and Max is like this and Max is like that. But Red Bull has its own history. So it's worth checking out.
Next up is season 1, episode 5, named Trouble at the Top. This one is especially for the Indians who want to get into F1 because it focuses a lot on Vijay Mallya and his then team Force India. Now, I don't want to get political and into what Vijay Mallya did and all of that, but he was a passionate man. He really, really loved motorsports, and it really goes to show how much a team owner needs to be passionate to make a team work. The basis of this episode is this rivalry between McLaren and Force India. McLaren is a very well funded team, but they have been doing really poorly. They even have Alonso, a two-time world champion, but they're getting nowhere close to Force India in their performance. And this creates the crux of the rivalry in this episode. However, there's this underlying tension because Vijay Mallya, is being investigated, his funds are being frozen. So it's all about, without him at the helm of Force India, will this team even survive? Spoiler alert, it doesn't. So this also focuses on one of the main Force India players at that time, Esteban Ocon, who's still a driver in F1 racing today. He's driving for Haas. And it's really interesting to see his journey because he's one of the few F1 drivers who didn't come from a very rich family. He actually had a very, very poor upbringing, but still his father worked really hard to get him where he is. So there's a very emotional pull that this episode has for you. And it leaves you at a great hook point, wondering about what's going to happen to Force India now that Vijay Mallya is out of the scene. Who's going to come in and rescue Force India? So if this is the first episode or the second episode you're watching, I can guarantee you'll be going on to the next one.
Up next is season 1, episode 8. Now, this episode is very aptly called The Next Generation. Just like this year, back then, as we love to put it, there were a couple of rookies. Now, today, those rookies are people you would likely follow as a fangirl, my co host included. So, we're talking about none other than, of course, Charles Leclerc. There were with him, there was Pierre Gasly, there was also George Russell, but he was still a reserve driver at the time and wasn't able to make his game into Mercedes just yet. Now, while this episode is really, really special, it marks something for F1 that not a lot of episodes until now have. You see, drivers, just like everyone else, also have people they look up to. It could be their father, it could be another driver. And in this certain case, Charles looked up to his godfather, Jules Bianchi. Now, Jules Bianchi is also an old F1 driver, to let you know. And there is a bit of a sad news here. In 2014, while he was racing at the Japanese Grand Prix, a very, very terrible accident took his life. And that was a very sad demise because he could never complete his dream. And he always told Charles about his dream. And Charles, of course, looking up to him like a godfather, decided that he's going to do it. And he does. And now there's this impact, right, that's made when you see such a real thing come out of a sport where you mostly feel like, okay, everything's fake, nothing's real, this is all staged. And a lot of people also did throw speculation at that time that Netflix would dramatize things, but I don't think you can create this kind of drama. This is real. Another very, very important thing that I feel like is a impactful reason to watch this specific episode is Pierre Gasly. Now, it is not easy when you have to be told that you might have a chance at switching teams to something like a Ferrari, something like a Red Bull, something like a McLaren today, but at the same time, you need to have the determination that it takes, and you can really see that through Pierre Gasly in this episode. Like the amount of training that he puts in and the entire regime that he does before he gets into the Singapore Grand Prix, of course, it's insane. So this definitely one of them to watch. Coming up next is season 2, episode 4. Now, this episode was very aptly called Dark Days. It's very rare that you get to see a fully documented version of someone that's just on the rise at all times, and you see this man going up and up and up and up and up. But then the entire downfall is captured. Now, that's something to watch. The incident I'm talking about here is, of course, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. Back then in 2019, the German Grand Prix was supposed to be a very significant race for Mercedes, as it was not only their 125th race for F1, but it was also their 200th start for F1. Yeah, there is a difference there. If you want me to explain it to you, 125th anniversary marked when Mercedes finally started producing their own cars and engines, and the 200th race start was when they had actually gotten into the sport and would, like today, take their engines and their parts from somebody else. Now, while all of this is happening, um, the race is of course insane, right? There's so much at stake. Mercedes needs nothing else, and they're in complete winning form. So what's going to stop them? Does something stop them? Hmm. Spoiler alert. It does. It's pretty easy for luck to go wrong, for when everything goes to shit. Mm-mm. You need to be careful. This episode will very aptly show you one insane thing, which is when rain comes down, it's not about the car anymore. Anything can happen. And when I say anything can happen, I mean, yeah, you have nobody can say anything. Like, even the biggest of F1 pundits will not be able to tell you what's going to happen. And I think this episode summarizes that aspect of F1 really, really well.
Now, let's talk about season 3, episode 4, titled We Need to Talk About Ferrari. So, this episode, as the name suggests, is very, very, very heavily about Ferrari. And at that time, there were two drivers helming Ferrari. One was Sebastian Vettel, a 4-time world champion, and our very own Charles Leclerc, who was at that point not really a rookie, but he was 2 seasons in to F1. But he was being touted as the future of Ferrari because he had actually gotten the longest contract anyone had ever gotten from Ferrari, or maybe from any team. He had gotten a 5 or 6 year contract at that point, which even Michael Schumacher had never been able to get. So this episode really sets up Charles Leclerc for you, which will be helpful if you're getting into the seasons from 2025. It also really goes to show what team inter-team rivalry can really look like, because Sebastian Vettel and Leclerc, although they're not like fist punching each other, there is this underlying tension throughout the episode, and it keeps you really on the edge. So this episode's great for setting up how rivalry can really look like inside a team. There is also hints at these illegal modifications that Ferrari had done in the year before, which also creates a lot of suspense in this episode. And it really goes to show you, as a hopeful new audience, what modifications to the car can really do during a race. And lastly, this race that they focus on in this episode, it's also very exciting. There are a lot of crashes, there are a lot of DNFs, so it really keeps you hooked. But the end is actually very anticlimactic. And now you may think this is a bad point, but it's actually a good point because it goes to show you that F1, even in Drive to Survive, is not a movie. It is actually the sport, and it actually makes you more excited because it's not predictable. You might think there is some big hero arc coming, and it might never come. Moving on, we have season 3, episode 6, The Comeback Kid. This is actually one of my favorite episodes of the whole series, in all 70 episodes, because this episode has such a heartwarming feeling. It's all about a redemption arc for Pierre Gasly. And this is also the episode you should watch if you want to know everything that's wrong with Red Bull, like every single thing. And it is so relevant still because exactly what happened to Pierre Gasly all those years back just happened to Liam Lawson this year. Pierre Gasly was very publicly thrown out of the second Red Bull seat just after 12 races. And this episode catches him 1 year later as he's in AlphaTauri, which was the then name for the junior RB team, and how he's getting back into his form. It really goes to show how, if a team encourages their drivers and nurtures their drivers, it can really bring out pure talent from the drivers. And it is such a good episode because you are rooting for Pierre Gasly from start to finish. And I'm not going to give you spoilers, but let's just say that this episode, exactly what I said was good about the last episode, that it was unpredictable and anticlimactic, the exact opposite is true for this. It is a true cinematic climax, but I love it. I'm a sucker for the cinematic climax, you know. Yeah, all I can say is goosebumps. You will get goosebumps. It is pure cinema.
Up next is season 3, episode 9. This episode is called Man on Fire. Now, um, okay. The reason I would tell you to watch this episode is just one. F1 is dangerous, guys. People think, there are so many safety regulations that they've made it boring, and today's races just aren't as fun as they used to be. Watch the episode and you'll know exactly why. Back then, there was this racer called Romain. I'm just going to try and get his name right. Romain Grosjean. Now, Romain Grosjean at the time was driving for Haas in their car, the VF20. While in the middle of the race, Romain's car suddenly takes off and veers directly into a metal barrier at the speed of 192 kilometers per hour. Needless to say, if that happened to any of us, we would not be alive. This man has toppled, come to a dead halt into the metal barrier, and then we've all seen his car light up on fire. The whole world, of course, stopped with their hearts in their mouth, wondering whether this man's even going to make it out alive on live television. And about 30 seconds later, without any help, you see Romain Grosjean walking right out. Now, the other reason I would ask you to watch this episode is because of what happens next. As soon as he walks out, you see a different aspect of F1 drivers. You see how they put their lives on the line to do these things, to show you an adventurous side to the sport, while they also have families, guys. They have wives, kids, parents. They have someone who's waiting for them to come home. And it's moments like these that really put the importance of, hey, you almost make it back, right? So in this episode, you very clearly see how Romain talks about what a close call it was. We even hear from his wife to hear a different aspect of how families feel when their drivers are under so much pressure and so much of danger when it comes to driving without the safety rules that exist today.
Ooh, the next one is season 4, episode 10, named Hard Racing. Guys.
Boo!
Guys, this is like the most controversial race, the most controversial episode, the most controversial moment that has happened in F1 in like maybe this decade, okay? Maybe more than this decade. So, actually, I'm going against the whole ethos of this video and I'm telling you, don't watch this episode. Go watch the race, okay? Then come watch this episode, okay? Because the race was phenomenal and this episode captures it, but you really need to watch the whole race for the build up to really hit, because this race is the 2021 deciding championship race where either Max Verstappen was going to win his first championship or Lewis Hamilton was going to win his 8th championship. Yes, the stakes were huge. And you might know, even if you're not an F1 fan, you might know what happened because, you know, everyone knows how many championships Max has and how many Lewis has. But what you don't know is behind the scenes, which I think this DTS episode does really well. It really shows you what the team principals do, how they fight with the FIA and how they fight with the stewards for their drivers. It really tells you how these penalties work. It really tells you how the decisions made up top by the FIA and the stewards will affect the race in real time. It's also a great episode to watch how team game can help, how playing the team game can help you win a race. Because Max Verstappen and Perez really play the team game, which gives them a big advantage. And, you know, it's also one of the episodes that gives you this iconic dialogue where the steward tells Toto Wolff, Toto, it's called motor racing. We went car racing. So, I mean, it's iconic. If you get into F1, you will know the iconic status of that dialogue.
Up next, now she's very clearly, and I've booed also loudly. So I don't even know whether I want to get into this, but now I need to talk about it, okay? We need to talk about the fact that season 5, episode 1, one of the most awaited seasons of Drive to Survive, guys, all because of the episode called The New Dawn. Now, why? Why would this episode be the most awaited, right? Because this was the only way for people to get a definitive answer on what the hell happened between Verstappen and Hamilton the previous year. Season 5, episode 1, they've begun the episode on telling you, hey, this is what happened. Now, I'm not going to tell you what happened. I'm not robbing you of the chance of watching these yourself and finding out what exactly happened. Although I'm pretty sure most of you all know. You should. Just, yeah, you should. Another very major aspect of this year, the 2021 season that took place, was the amount of changes the FIA made to the rules. Now, very specifically, they made changes to the aerodynamics of the car and the power consumption of the car. Needless to say, we are seeing this year how even the slightest of aerodynamic changes are throwing teams that were on the top last time straight out of contention. You're seeing Red Bull suffer, you're seeing Ferrari suffer. Now, back then, everyone suffered. A top performing team like Mercedes couldn't. A, a top performing team like Red Bull couldn't. In fact, they had a very uneventful race, which is legit what the episode's about. Although one team did really well through all of this. I'm so glad to be following them now. I also think they are, till date, yeah, I'll give it to them. They're the most iconic duo for F1 that there's ever been there between two drivers. I'm talking about Chile and Charles. Oh my god. The first race of that season was a Ferrari 1-2, baby. And needless to say, this was after 3 years. This was a 3-year gap between wins. So you can imagine the amount of red flags flying all over. The good kind. Um, One thing to note though. Now, while I don't really like to get political, there is something that was very abrupt that took place that year. Haas was employing a driver called Nikita Mazepin. A lot of people know Mazepin from GS but for the people who don't, he's made his mark, all right? And he was a great driver back in his time. But the unfortunate effect of the Russia Ukraine war brought Mazepin's career to a very bad end. Since he's Russian, Haas decided that it was better to not be associated with him. Was that a good move? Was it not? Watch the episode, you tell me. But at the same time, I don't think Gunther was bothered because there's a very nice, cute little scene out there where Gunther and the then Ferrari team principal, sorry, I'm going to get his name correct, Mattia Bonoro, sorry. Both of them were seen driving together in a Fiat 500. But if you can imagine it now, it's just two of team principals driving around in a Fiat 500, which, by the way, is as big as a Nano. But yeah, that's the fun of F1.
And last but not the least is season 7, episode 7, In the Heat of the Night. This was the latest season of Drive to Survive. I will be honest, the season was not my favorite season. They've really changed things up. Drive to Survive does not follow a chronological order of the races anymore. It's way more thematic, which kind of threw me off a little bit. And this season, I feel like could be better. But this was truly my favorite episode from this season. And that's because it has 5 friends: Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Russell, George Russell, and Alex Albon come together and they are filming videos on their phones and like taking you through their racing, their lives. And it's just such a feel good episode. And it shows so much of the camaraderie, their friendship. it really makes you realize how young they are. They are these boys. Yes, they're making millions, but they are these boys. They're just friends, driving these crazy cars at the end of the day, I guess. But yeah, it really gives a peek into their lives. It really humanizes these drivers, and I really loved it. There's also a very emotional aspect to this episode because they do speak a little bit, Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon especially, who are in inferior cars. They speak about, how they grew up competing with each other as friends, and now because of the different cars they drive, they're not in the same league anymore. And that really hits hard because you realize how important the car they drive is to their hopes of becoming champions. Um, this episode also mainly focuses on Singapore as a race. And Singapore is one of the most challenging, physical, emotionally draining races there is on the calendar. And if you watch this episode, there is no way you're going to come out saying, oh, F1's not even like a sport, football is so much more challenging. No, watch this episode, see what happens to George Russell, and then you'll truly know why F1 is the greatest sport.
So yeah, those are our top 10,
Yeah.
and for various reasons, of course, like you've heard from us, I genuinely feel like even if you don't want to watch 70 episodes, these 10 will definitely do the trick.
Yeah, I agree. And if you watch Drive to Survive and think you have a different list of top 10 episodes,
Dude, mail them in.
yeah,
Trust me. Just tell us what you think your top 10 are.
yeah,
We'll be more than happy to watch your top 10 and figure.
yeah. And maybe we'll do a part 2 of this video in another break.
Mm-hmm.
Until then,
See you next time.